The Daytona 500 is the World Series and the Super Bowl of stock car racing. For the team behind number 44, it's more than that.
Your whole year revolves around Daytona. You know, you work all year long to get to Daytona in February.
It's war. Everybody wants bragging rights next week. When we leave Daytona, we want to go to Rockingham and brag that we had a good week and we won the war at Daytona.
And as you start getting closer and closer, you start going back through your head and replaying races that you ran there in the past.
The thrill of victory. That's what we all strive for.
Just to be here is a big deal.
Kyle Petty is the third generation of racing champions.
My grandfather started late in life. He started in his mid-30s driving a race car. And my father was just around it from the time he was 8 or 9 years old. And, you know, I think I drive just for the same reasons Richard Petty did. You grow up in it.
As a wee little boy, Kyle displayed some of the daredevil genes of his father, King Richard Petty, and his grandfather, Lee, who began racing nearly a half-century ago.
We've been doing it a long time. My father ran the first race that they ran in 1949, and we've been running most all the races since then. You know, Kyle's hung around with us and when he was growing up, and I hung around with my father when I was growing up, and I got old enough, I drove, and Kyle got old enough, he started driving, so it's been a whole lot of family involved.
In the final stretch, Lee Petty in the center, Beauchamp below him.
The Petty family involvement in the Daytona 500 dates back to the first one ever run, 2 years before Kyle Petty was born. It went down to the wire, and the winner was Lee Petty in his merry Oldsmobile. Now it was time for young Richard to move into the front row. Right from the start, he drove number 43, one-upping his father Lee's 42. Pretty soon, he would be one-upping the entire sport. King Richard would win a record 200 races in his extraordinary career, including the Daytona 500 7 times, another record.
Petty is out in front at the line, wants it to the inside. Petty wins it!
His son has never won a 500, but unlike Richard, who took a couple of years to win his first race, Kyle lost no time getting started.
And the first race Kyle ever drove, he come down here, we brought him down here, he'd never been in a race car. He's like scared us to death. I mean, he was just out there running wide open, you know. I mean, he was wilder than a young buck, but he won the race.
I think people compare a lot of things to addictive habits, but it's real addictive. It's once you do it once, it's not the kind of sport that you're a casual acquaintance with, whether you're a fan or whether you're a driver. And, you know, it goes past the point of love, where it's, you know, you live, breathe, eat, sleep, play. Everything you do revolves around the race car.
Okay, so it's obsessive. It comes with the sport, any sport, for those who compete at the highest level. For 3 generations, the Pettys have been race drivers, and racing defines the family.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. You know, I mean, I think my father was proud that I wanted to follow in his footsteps, and I've always been proud of Kyle that he wanted to follow in our footsteps. So, you know, the deal is just getting it all together and being able to do it and make a living out of it and have a lot of fun doing it.
All right, we're going to be behind the 28.
You know, it's the Middle Ages to the modern ages as far as a comparison on where racing was to where it is right now.
Once again, the hard-packed sands of Daytona Beach are the speedway for the stock car races, marking the golden jubilee of automobile progress. Oh, my aching tires.
Before there was a 500, there was racing on the beach at Daytona in cars that were not aerodynamically correct. You half expected James Cagney to pop out of one firing a machine gun. For the spectator, spectators, it was up close and personal and dangerous.
You look out, he's lost a wheel. 2 persons are hurt. Scratch 1 jalopy.
It was dangerous for the drivers, too.
They wore a single lap belt, and a lot of times they didn't have a lap belt, so they just tied herself in with a piece of rope.
But now is now. And for the Petties, it's onward and upward.
And every time you go to a racetrack and every time you build a car and everything you do, you're trying to make it a little bit better than what it was last week. And this challenge is always there, and sometimes you meet the challenge, sometimes you don't.
I think for us to come down here, to not have any cars 2 months ago, to come back here and to be in the race is a big day for us.
Green flag, green flag.
And Sunday morning when we drop the green flag, then it'll be a big day for us.
In Concord, North Carolina, on December 16th, just 2 months from the Daytona 500, we found Kyle Petty and his brand new team of engineers and mechanics building a brand new car from scratch and watching the days fly by.
2 months seems like a week, especially right now, because you're trying to build cars, trying to get motors organized, trying to get hotel rooms, trying to get parts and pieces shipped in, because this is a brand new team.
Everything's hands-on, and you got to know what you're working with, and there's so many variables on a race car that that can go wrong, and if you don't have grasp of everything that's going on, something will bite you, and even the minute details are important.
Oh, that's just first list. That's not all of it.
It's a lot of long hours put in, building these cars, and it's tough to keep morale up sometimes. That's the biggest deal. If you keep everybody happy, keep everybody, working for one goal.
Days later, the team has its sign up and the garage is humming. And this happy breed of men is performing the hundreds of little chores that will turn pieces of metal into a high-tech machine. It requires effort, dedication, and sacrifice.
It's tough to put into words what, how much work goes into these cars and how much time these people give up for their families and stuff. It is your life, and you put so much time into it. When you get on the racetrack and it all comes together, it makes it all worth it.
We got a long ways to go, but we're getting there.
Kyle Petty will be driving for himself after 18 years as a hired gun. It's a gamble, of course, but he has a couple of partners to ease the way.
I never thought about being in a position to be an owner-driver. And I'm fortunate to have David Evans and my father being part owners in this thing, too. That way the pressure's not all on me, it's on somebody else also.
This is pretty much a family. That's why it's important to have a group of people that work for you that all get along, all have pretty much the same taste and enjoy doing the same things, because you spend so much time together that's a vital part of making it work.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated business. It's not just pulling them out of them trucks and run them on Sunday, put them back in the truck and go home and go back to the next racetrack and take them out of the trucks. An awful lot of engineering, a lot of creativity in doing the bodies and doing the chassis and doing all the work. Full-time job for a lot of people.
Spin it over.
Spin it over, switch on.
A race car is only as good as its engine, and the engine must be as nearly perfect as imperfect human beings can make it.
This is not like an engine you could go buy from your dealership. Every piece of this engine is designed and built for racing, and everything is handmade, hand-tailored for racing. It's not like any kind of street engine, so everything has a lot of hours put into it from top to bottom. The materials are so much better, and I think it trickles down through the aerospace industry. You know, once like NASA finds a new material, it eventually trickles down to the race teams, and it just makes our stuff more durable, and you're able to push the limits and get a little bit more power out of them.
Finally, with everyone satisfied, except maybe the dog, the car is ready. Not ready yet for racing, but ready for testing. So, after some last-minute trimming and mending and darning, the car is ready to roll, at least into a truck. Kyle's team did not have its own truck yet, so they borrowed Richard's STP van. Hey, it's all in the family.
I guess the big challenge is just everything coming together, getting all the right pieces and parts.
Y'all got 3 days to work on it.
I think we've already assembled the right people. The big challenge is getting all the pieces of the puzzle put together, go to Talladega and go to Daytona and have a good test to know that when you go for the Daytona 500 that you're going to have a good week.
The car is on its way to Talladega, Alabama for intensive testing. And no hospital patient, no curried and coddled thoroughbred racehorse will receive a more thorough going over. The grueling 7-hour trip to Talladega is made because the track there meets the same specifications as Daytona Speedway. Eventually, Kyle will test 2 cars in Daytona, 2 Pontiacs, identical in every detail, except for the way they behave under stress. One will be a teeny bit faster, a tad more reliable than the other. But which one? The backup car still being built in North Carolina, or this one?
We spent most of our testing in January. You test the car, but the driver is just, you know, a necessity, and not really a necessity. He's just a part of the program because the driver gets in it and goes and runs it, and then you look at the computer to see what the computer says the car's doing.
Bobby Hamilton, Richard Petty's driver, is borrowed for the test run on Kyle's car.
Cool.
Sensors in the car record data for the computer in the garage. Kyle can learn more back there than he can behind the wheel.
Where is my body set on that car? Give me the attitude that's the fastest.
See, what I wanted to do with this car more than anything else, I wanted Bobby to drive it and get it where he was comfortable with it and get it where the shock travels and everything were comparable to what that car is. If I go run it and I say, God, it's pushing and it's loose and it's doing this, then I'll think of 2 or 3 things and change it all at the same time. I'll get where I need to be there.
Naturally, there was a glitch. Fortunately, it was minor. A fender burn caused by the right rear tire.
Didn't run it hard or anything. Make sure tires ain't rubbing too bad or anything like that.
A preliminary diagnosis finds a possible culprit in the shock absorbers. Answer: borrow shocks from Richard's car.
I want some of your shocks on this car. I mean, and they don't have to be that set of shocks. Just a set of shocks that you think will get me back closer to where you're at here, so I can see what this body's doing. How much are we getting?
Watching these men deciphering their computer screens, you realize how far racing has come since the days of put the pedal on the floor and turn left.
I think the computer knowledge has what's really pushed the limits, and you're able to make decisions and try different things and definitely see improvements before you even get to the racetrack.
It's not a Bonneville ride. It's more like a pickup truck ride. You know what I mean? Maybe a logging truck.
The computer can tell you what went wrong and why, but it still takes a man with a hammer to fix it.
You need to brute force first, and that's all the people, the 20, 22 people that we have that's making it all come together. On the other side of it, you need the technical support, the computer knowledge, all that stuff that you bring to the table to make sure that when you test all this stuff, you go to the racetrack with a computer in the car, and you take all the measures to make sure that you're not kidding yourself, that when you go to Daytona that you're going to have a good run.
Back on the track for another drive. Then back to the garage for more tweaking, testing, and fine-tuning. All day long and into the night. Finally, it's off to Daytona. But not for the race, not yet, not by a long shot. More testing. And a nice interlude to remind you that you're a star.
Oh man, this is so cool. The first Kyle Petty autograph I've gotten yet. Yes. Makes my day, man. Thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Hang in there.
That's funny.
We'll see y'all later, man.
Safely in Daytona for the first day of testing there. 2 number 44s are offloaded.
Go back a little bit.
Very gingerly.
Go back. Ho, ho, ho.
1 number 44, the backup car, will have its maiden test here in Daytona. The other number 44 is the veteran of Talladega. 44 is a natural progression from Richard Petty's immortal number 43 and grandfather Lee's 42. Richard is more than a doting father, more than a financial angel. He and his team work hand in hand with Kyle's team. Everything from trading information to swapping parts.
But sort of a security blanket, in some means, that they well-established team. They've got a lot of good ideas and things going for them, so we can sort of feed off of them on some of those deals.
In the testing process, you not only have to put your own car through its paces, you have to check out the competition.
22.
Knowing what the other cars can do is just as important as knowing your own. This is serious business.
I know it sounds stupid, but this is not going up for a layup out there, you know what I mean? If you miss, you just miss a layup. If you miss this, then you can get hurt. You like to know the people that work on the cars, you like to trust and have fun with the people that work on the cars, and you like to know what's going on. And that way you can give them positive feedback. So that's why it's important to kind of know where all 4 corners of the car are all the time.
If it falls off, something bad can happen. So you got to make sure you do it right, or at least try to do it right. If you don't, somebody might get hurt.
RPMs look like they were up. Kill you in the corners.
Now the moment of truth. Kyle settles in for a test run in the original car, now known as 44A. continues to gather information for the computers, but once testing is finished, no computers allowed.
No, right now we're just going off everything computer. You know, if it doesn't feel comfortable to me, obviously I'm not going to drive it, and I'm not going to run it as hard as I could be running it. But it's comfortable enough right now. Everything we're doing is ride heights and engine gases, you know, temperatures, exchanging and stuff. We're doing all that off the computer stuff. It just makes it a lot simpler.
The wind's really at your back right here.
It may look like trying to decipher the Rosetta Stone, but these men who can do it know that it makes life a whole lot easier.
Because of the information that we can gather and fine-tune so many aspects of the car that you couldn't do it by just, you know, trial and error. You take too long, too much time.
Right now, today it's higher.
It's, like I said, it gives you a lot of information that there's no way you can monitor other than through that computer.
Now the hood temperature up a little bit by not bleeding no air into it.
Yeah.
We'll look on that on the computer and see what it reads.
After the computer has explained 40 aspects of the car's performance, the men go to work again. They didn't need a computer to find this problem, though. That old fender problem again.
The fender's rubbing just a touch, and we're trying to just figure out where to put it. You look at it, the car goes down and the car goes over, and the tires stay in the same place, so the body rolls on it, so it makes it rub in different places.
Kyle's two cars have different problems, different advantages, like children. But only one can enter the 500.
The car that sits here seems to be a better driving car. This is a faster car, and that's pretty much what you get into. About 90% of the time is the one that drives good is always the slowest one.
He runs good. You got to bring it. You don't think he can push it. Yeah, real bad.
Day 2 of testing, with many other cars involved.
I think they've got like 40 cars here for this test. And, you know, you'll wait sometimes 15, 20 minutes before you can get on the track anyways.
All right, I'm next to go. Just tell me when. Okay, go now. Go. You got 2 cars, and they are coming off 4 right now.
Both cars are being tested now, and as always is the case, improvements and shortcomings are measured in very small numbers.
We've got a long ways to go. We're looking to gain hundredths of a second, and you know, stopwatches only go in tenths. We need to pick up like 4/10 of a second, which we can do that, but the problem is while we're doing that, everybody else is.
4/10 of a second, an eye blink, a finger snap, but it must be gained.
So you can't just gain 4/10 of a second. We're 4/10 off. By the time we gain our 4, these other guys will gain 2 or 3 if we're lucky enough to stay ahead of them. So if you're 4/10 off, you say, well, we got to pick up 6/10 by the time we come back for the race.
My mind's going about as fast as the car is. Just we're searching for speed, and that's your constant goal is to make the car go faster. And yeah, keeping this up where it's not. Everything's a trial and error deal. Get active, felt better in it, took some less pull out. Great. Do things you think's going to work, and you have your idea of which direction you're heading in. You'll head down that road, and it'll be the wrong road. You have to drop back and refigure where you're going. And everything. Sometimes you think something's going to work, and it bites you. It's awful. Something you think is not going to work will be great. It's a shot in the dark, anything you do.
4/10 of a second might seem as elusive as the Holy Grail, but it's out there somewhere. All you have to do is find it and decide which car has the best chance. It's not an easy choice.
Actually, we got 2 different programs going on with the 2 separate cars. You know, just trying to make the best use of the time we've got here instead of, you know, trying to do everything with one car and maybe an hour between runs, we can run Kyle to death jumping from car to car, and we can go to 2 different programs and try to get a little more information out of what time we've got.
You try to make this one drive as good as that one, but a lot of times if you make it drive as good as that one does, it'll run as slow as that one. So it's a guessing game. We're going to try to take some of the stuff off that one and put on this one, and some of the stuff off this one and put on that one.
The big thing that got swapped was the engine, sort of like a heart transplant. And so the transplant is completed. The valves and the arteries are connected. But this patient can't just survive, it must thrive. But thrive with restrictions. For safety reasons, the engine's 700 horsepower must be cut by almost a third. Enter the restrictor plate.
These engines have a restrictor plate on them, and that takes about 250 horsepower out of the engine. And they put the restrictor plates on the engines to slow the cars down. Limit the amount of air that'll go in the engine, which determines the power of the engine.
All those adjustments, all that fine-tuning must be accomplished in 3 days. You can't always keep tinkering. You have to stop sometime.
Honestly, I'll be surprised if we get everything done in these 3 days that we'll want to look at.
The only thing that stops you from working right now is it's 5 o'clock. Okay, the only thing that stops you when the races are going on is that the race is over or the practice is over. So that stops. You can't go out, you can't try a lot of things, and you don't want to guess too much. So, if you were just able to come down here and run as long as you wanted to run, you'd still be doing this in 2 months. Just tweaking stuff, changing little things, and trying to find the best way. So, it's never ending.
The third and final day of testing. When it's over, Kyle and his team will have to choose which of the cars will run in the 500.
With one car, we're really good. With the other car, we're so-so.
It's a little like deciding which of your kids you love the most. But unlike that dilemma, picking a car for the race is a choice that must be made.
So, we're pretty good with one car. We're at about 185, 8, 9, 186, right along in there. And that's about where we need to be before you block off and before you qualify.
Kyle took time out to explain what it's like to drive Daytona Speedway. And during a lunch break, he gave us a ride in the pace car.
In the Winston Cup car, then you shift like in the second somewhere along in here. And then you run second a pretty good ways. You run second all the way down through here. When you leave the pits, you're supposed to stay below this yellow line. Check your mirror to clear to make sure that the racetrack's clear. And then you ease up into the racetrack. And when we go out for practice and stuff, this is kind of what you do. You go in, you go low, but then you go up to give you plenty of room because you're making the racetrack bigger. Shift into third somewhere along in here. Then you'll run third all the way through here, real high. A lot of times what I do is cut right along and through here and come back down to the bottom of the racetrack and just let the car go where it wants to go, just like that. And it kind of finds its own place. And then you run down the backstretch. Every time that when we're practicing out here, so that we can tell whether it's an improvement or whether it's hurting the car, there's a caution light right there. You shift into fourth right there. So then you run. And basically what we do is, same thing, just reverse from the other end. Same thing. You go in high, you run right up here next to the top to let the car build up speed. This is the same thing you do if you were qualifying for down here. It's basically the same thing. To come back down the racetrack, put a straight line right through here, and you ease out next to the wall and you try to keep it as straight as you can. And the wall acts as a stabilizer because you're running 180, 190 right along there. And And there's timers right there, so now you're on a timed lap.
I would think his new car is probably going to wind up being the car he'll race at Daytona.
As it turned out, a fairly easy choice to make.
And it's already showing some promise. It's a little faster than the other car. Right now it looks like it's going to be the better of the two cars, so they'll concentrate on it probably the rest of the test.
The winner, by unanimous decision, was the new car, the second car.
Actually, the whole test so far has been, a success, really. It's in the new team, everybody's working together well. That's part of the process too. You're trying to get the car go faster. You've got all these new guys trying to learn each other and work together. And it's about as big a deal trying to get the people to work together as just get the car go faster.
Back in North Carolina. After the heavy lifting, after the debutante has been chosen, comes the plastic surgery, the cosmetics.
I like it.
The transformation of the dull silver bullet into an eventual rainbow. After all, you can't go to the show without a little lipstick.
It's like watching your kids grow up. When you start from a team, with nothing, you're building things from ground up, just like the cars. It's, they're your babies, and you nurture them through, and when they get on the track, that's when they're growing up.
Now comes the sponsor's favorite part, the unveiling of the logo. Mattel's Hot Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
A tribute to the good shepherd with the deep pockets who helped make Kyle's venture possible. A lot of companies might have done it. Mattel did. Speed Week at Daytona. It's an ad man's paradise. Bright and shiny logos will be burned into the eyes of thousands of people at the track and millions watching on television. Sponsors do not undersell their products. The qualifying runs will winnow the field down to 42 cars, so the souped-up engines are built for speed, not endurance.
Your qualifiers, you just build them a little bit more on edge, a little bit lighter parts. You're trying to get everything you can get out of it for 10 laps or 15 laps rather than 500 miles.
All during Speed Week, officials check to see that all cars meet all NASCAR specifications. They measure heights and weights and clearances to make sure of two things: that every car is as safe as science can make it, and that no car has a built-in competitive advantage. The restrictor plate is the great equalizer.
We put the restrictor plate here in a secured area with the crew chief watching what we're doing. We have a tripod with a measure. We lay each hole, all of the 4 holes on the restrictor plate, on it to show that each hole is the same diameter. Budget-wise, we can't control what these teams have. What we try to do is keep this sport as cost-effective as we can, and have every guy who comes through this gate rule-wise to think he has just as good a shot of winning the Daytona 500 as the guy parked beside of him. We take an inspector. Only 2 guys can roll the car out onto pit road with the inspector, and they roll it out on the grid, and we're ready to race.
Once the car has passed its physical, it's nail-biting time. The first qualifying run. 2 laps, much like the old days. Put the pedal to the metal and turn left.
Once it's time for me to go out there, you just run as hard as you can run until you get back.
Well, nobody's perfect. It was a disappointing run near the bottom of the pack. But these men know that a world-class jockey, for instance, loses 80% of his races. So keep smiling.
You've got to have a good humor about this sport, especially because we race 32 times a year, and you've had a great year, you know, if you win 2 or 3 races. It's pretty much what it boils down to. So if you look at it in terms of that, you lost 27 or 28 races that year. So you're going to lose a lot more than you win. So you have to have a pretty decent humor about things.
2 things need shoring up here. The men's morale, and of course the car.
Oh, not too bad. Gaining on slowly. A couple more days we'll be there, I hope.
Racing demands a lot of hours here, away from your family and away from maybe things that you should be doing at home, but it takes a lot away from you, but it takes a certain breed of people to do this, and they're dedicated people, and they enjoy what they're doing. I'd almost believe they'd do it if they didn't get paid to do it. You know, it's, for us, I've always said I think it's in your blood. We have racing in our blood, and this is what we love to do, and it's competitive, and that's what keeps you driving and keeps you trying new things and trying to be better.
At this point, there may have been a blessing in disguise. Rain forced a postponement of the second qualifying run, and Petty's team had an extra day to work on the car and buck up their spirits. Before that second qualifying run, the cars take to the track to practice drafting, driving in the comparatively placid wake of the car ahead, which is taking all the wind resistance. After the first qualifying run, Kyle was in the red. Not yet in the race, but not out of it either, if he can be just a little bit faster.
Basically, all we're out here to do is try to improve on that. If we can improve on it just a 10th or 15 100ths, that's all we're looking for. If we don't improve on it, we gave it our best shot, and that's kind of the way we're approaching it.
You're going to catch 22. You have no net to work with. We had no points. We had nothing. The first day we had trouble, obviously. We didn't get a good time. We had to go again.
He was 32nd fastest the other day with a 48.284 speed. He's going to try to beat that today to improve his chances.
Here's his first lap, 48.570, slower than Saturday.
But it's a little faster than he ran his first lap on Saturday, about a 1/10 of a second, although he picked up almost 4/10 of a second on his second lap. Now, if he could pick up that much again, he'll be okay. But they're picking up about 3/10, which would put him about exactly the same speed that he ran on Saturday if he picks up 3/10.
This is a new team, and of course, that means that they do not have any provisional for this race. Checkered flag comes out.
Well, he does 48.162, 186.869 miles an hour. That's some 12 100ths of a second better than his Saturday qualifying.
know, snap your finger. You're looking for that each time. Each time you pick it up, every little bit adds up to a big deal.
Better, but still in the red, but still not out of the picture.
26. He was already in front of us, so we stayed the same. Schrader was already in front, so we stayed the same.
As they ponder the bewildering arithmetic, Kyle and his team know they have one more chance.
I don't know. You just got to get a run down.
Before the 500 comes the 125, a mandatory 125-mile race run in 2 heats, and Petty's team still has a chance to squeeze into the big race.
I'm very excited. I'm ready to just get it done and get in the field.
We've been running good. You know, we're right there on the edge. If we have a good 125 and finish in top 15, we're in. And then if we don't, then we're real close on our qualifying time that, you know, it'd be really close. I hope we make it.
Nervous like everybody else. They say the Daytona 500 is the biggest race of the year, but today's the biggest race of the year. If you don't get through today's race, you don't make it to Sunday. It's time to shine now.
Kyle is entered in the second heat. He will have to finish no worse than 14th to make the 500 because his qualifying times were not good enough by themselves. For NASCAR, the 125 is a chance to get an extra race on television. For Kyle Petty, it's a redeemer. He was running 16th. But then a car ahead of him hit the wall.
Take a look at leg speed back here, the number 9. That is the 15th place car on the bubble at the moment. Just behind him is Kyle Petty, stacked up on the outside. The yellow, number 30, Johnny Benson. Oh, in trouble is Craven. Speed gets taken out. And the crash continues in the rear of the field.
Kyle Petty and Morgan Shepherd both involved.
This action happening as they come to lap 10.
I thought I had it missed. When what happened was one car came from the outside, one car and came across and hit the inside. And sent a car back across that way, and the 25 came across to the inside, I guess. And so they kept crisscrossing. And when they start crisscrossing, you don't know which way to go. You don't know whether to go high, you don't know whether to go low. I was bumped in the rear by another car, and it turned me. And then all I could do then was stand in the gas and go back down across and try to get down to the grass.
The car pulled in for a pit stop.
So we got to come in and fix the back bumper, fix the nose. We'll run down on the racetrack, straighten out all that, and then we get out and drive and get the car as good as we can. When we had damage to the front of the car, we had damage to the back of the car, the guys know what they need to do. They go to the areas they need to go and repair the car, and they're not stumbling over each other or falling down or wondering what they need to do. You pick the guys that's most experienced. You feel that, you know, when you do have a problem and they go across pit road, that the damage is taken care of and you don't worry about it. You don't have to have someone tell them what to do every move. When they go across the wall, they know what they need to do to get the car fixed and get it back as quick as we can.
Kyle hustled out of the pit to reclaim his position under a caution flag.
Now I was in the wreck, so that tore the car up. So then that means you run slower. So then obviously you're in a position. So, you know, from everywhere we were, it knocked us way, way, way back. And we pretty much had to start back at ground zero with 30-some laps to go.
When the cars resumed speed, it looked as if his bubble was about to burst.
Where those others back there were battling because they know one of those drivers back there is not going to qualify in this race for the Daytona 500.
Right now, Kyle Petty is in 14th position and John Andretti is in 15th position back there in that action as to who makes it, who doesn't. Take a look at the bubble battle. Here's the 44 and the 98 hard after it. Petty on the inside, John Andretti up around the outside. John had that great performance over the first 15 laps, then fell back, trying to hold on here.
Yep.
Andretti passes Kyle. Then the gods who govern racing luck intervene with just 5 laps to go.
Turn number 4, here comes Kyle. He will get around John Andretti.
98 brushed the wall, John Andretti dropping back. Big break for Kyle Petty. And across the line, it is going to be Earnhardt in first. And the bubble car coming to the line puts Kyle Petty, his new team, into the Daytona 500.
We feel like we won the race already, so we're in the 500.
Somebody was shining on us.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, the good Lord was with us today.
Piece of cake, never a doubt. Sure. Nobody will ask them how they got there. They just got there.
Nobody knows how hard it is to do this.
Got an alternate wreck and messed the car up, and you know, still was able to come back and at least make the big race. So real proud of him. He done a super job.
Well, I've been praying for 6 months now to get this thing in the Daytona 500. That was the one I was worried about. And, you know, with this antiquated system of run these races, some good cars go home and some good cars get to stay, or some bad cars get to stay. And I guess we're fortunate that we were a borderline car and we get to stay.
You know, we got 500 miles now. We're going to turn him loose now.
Sunday I'm going to be in the Daytona 500, and that's all that matters.
Feels like the weight of the world's off our shoulders. We made it. It was close. Now we get ready for the race. Everybody can be a little bit more relaxed.
There's no downtime, however, between the 125 and the 500. The nicks and the dents and the dings have to be repaired. But the Petty team has come a long way in a short time, so bring on the big one.
We're taking a shot. You want to try to drop a little bit out of the bar? Yeah, 10-4.
Yeah, the whole deal now, really, you end up chasing the racetrack for the next couple of days. And then we practice, and we fine-tune, and you just tweak the shocks and the springs and do things. Little things, really.
Looking under.
Shocks and springs and all that little stuff. Just as a marathon runner must be in tip-top shape, his heart and his lungs and his legs, so number 44 must be made whole with a special engine for race day.
The key is the inside, the camshaft, pistons and rods and intake manifolds and cylinder heads and valves, the stuff inside that you can't see. That's where all the secrets are. We got one final practice for an hour Saturday afternoon, which they call happy hour.
It's where you throw your best stuff at it. And if you're not ready when you come out of there, then chances are you're not going to be ready. You've been down here 10 days, and you know it still boils down to that one last hour of practice.
Hold your line. Hold your line.
Car's pretty good. Run good last practice. I look forward to tomorrow.
Happy hour is over. The driver is satisfied. The crew is satisfied. The car is as good as it's going to be. All that's left is a good night's sleep, if you can sleep.
We'll take a look at the lineup at a certain point in time here.
Pre-race coverage of the Daytona 500 continues live from the Speedway.
On Kyle Petty, I'm going to have to defend Kyle a little bit. Kyle Petty is still a great competitor. Give him the car and he can do it.
Kyle Petty wants to prove that he can revive his career with his own team and his own car. And his car's engine, which has been designed to last 501 miles, has to do the job.
We'll just go through the whole, every nut and bolt on the external of the engine to make sure everything's tight, nothing's going to fall off. Just inspect the whole engine from top to bottom as much as we can, and Loctite everything, tie wrap everything, make sure nothing's going to fall off, and then we'll be ready to go.
It's wonderful, and we made the race, and we're ready to go.
Just praying right now, hoping that he finishes in the top 20, top 15, somewhere around there.
Win and run good, that's all I like. But stay out of trouble.
Hey, you just try to make them as nice as you can, because you got to race against people that got just as good as stuff.
Hope we have a safe day, and that's for all the teams. You know, I don't want to see anybody get hurt or anybody have a catastrophe or anything like that.
It's going to be strategy. You know, it's my time to make all the calls.
Green flag, green flag.
And they're off for the 39th consecutive running of the Daytona 500.
Everybody still together. Hang in there. Clear all around. You're doing good. Inside. Clear all around. Hang in there.
For me, you know, I think it's the competitive part. It's part of it, being competitive. It's the part of being on top of a piece of equipment and making that piece of equipment part of you, an extension of you.
Stay out there. He's coming back to you.
Once you start racing, then your car will change because you're running fuel out of it. You're doing a lot of different stuff. It's getting lighter. The nose is getting heavier because the fuel's coming off the back. It's pitching nose weight to the front. The tires are getting older. So you start having to find a groove. You can't run the same place the whole race.
Still single file. Hang in there.
But you're always talking to somebody. There's always somebody asking you questions about stuff, and you're telling them stuff about who's driving crazy or who's doing this or who's doing that.
Inside. There you go. Still on the inside now. In for it.
Oh, Jarrett's loose. Down the back straightaway. Big trouble. Earnhardt out.
Hey, caution down. Caution down. About 25 more laps. We're going to gas and go. We'll put you a little more tank. All right, cut her in.
Kyle escaped and pulled number 44 into the pit.
Then it comes time to pit. It's just like something takes over you. I mean, you just forget everything. I do. I concentrate on exactly what my job is, to get it done as quick and as hard as I can.
All the way over. Good stop, guys. Good stop. All right, you're up behind the 18 car.
In the latter stages of the race, tactics become more important than strategy.
Stay right with them.
Okay, that's okay. If we had a little bit more motor, we'd be able to run. We're just a little bit down right now.
It just, you got to take it as it comes during the race. You know, if you get yourself in a situation where your car's not quite as good as it needs to be, well, you need to try to win another way.
Kennedy tried another way when he pointed out a piece of debris on the track, causing officials to put up a caution flag, allowing Kyle to get a desperately needed pit stop.
Back on the inside off turn 4 and trouble. There's trouble coming down off that banking. 1, 2, 3.
Caution, caution. Come on, you're all right. Come on. Everything behind you. Just watch out now. 10-4.
The 8th caution flag of the race came after the final crash, and once again, Kyle and his car narrowly avoided it.
When it gets time to pay, then you start pushing it. And when you push it and force an issue, then you have things happen, and that's what happened.
You done a hell of a job there, boy, I'm telling you.
You guys did good. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
A hell of a job indeed. The last 4 laps were completed under the caution flag. The 30 surviving cars coasting to the finish line.
First, second, and third, Gordon, Labonte, and Craven.
Kyle finished 14th, a very respectable showing. And if there was no wild celebration, there was a bunch of happy campers.
Yeah, not bad for a debut for a new team.
No, we were good. You know, we just avoided the attrition out there. A lot of guys had trouble. We got a car left. A bunch of people around here don't have cars left if you look around. So we're just going to end up taking what we got, and we ended up with 14, so we're pleased with it.
Well, it wasn't pretty, but it was effective, I guess. Come home one piece.
We're just a little bit off. We'll get it.
I'll tell you what, I'm proud of all these guys, proud of the job we did. Basically, we didn't really know one another that well, and I think the accomplishment we made just coming right out of the box is pretty good. So I'm just proud to be a member of this team.
Y'all done good, guys. Proud of you.
This has been fun putting this deal together and doing all of it this way, because it's been like going back to your grassroots and starting all over again. There's a sense of pride there, I guess, that these guys all pulled together in one direction to do something.
After the race, Kyle and his team wasted no time leaving Daytona. In less than an hour, they were packed up and out of there. In racing, as in real life, there's no profit in looking back. Tomorrow must be dealt with. I'm Ray Gandolf.